So it's finally here, Power Rangers Unlimited the Death Ranger. When this was announced back in May, there was a lot of hype leading up to this one-shot because we were going to learn the origins of the original Omega Ranger team, but not only that, we were introduced to a brand new Omega Ranger, the Death Ranger, who was the Gold Omega Ranger. Now, I want to clear up some confusion right away. When the press releases for this issue was coming out, there was a typo going around for them, and that was, there was 6 Omega Rangers. This was a typo because originally when Paul was writing the book or the one-shot, there was going to be 6 Omega Rangers, but one of them's got scrapped, so there was 5, there was meant to be 6. There was some last-minute changes when doing this book, but reading this comic, it was a lot of fun. I think Paul did an amazing job on this comic, and I enjoyed the story that it was telling for the origin of the Omega Rangers, and not only that, the story of Spiark as they fell into madness and grief and lost someone very important to them, and they do anything they can to revive them. So it pretty much parallels what Andros is going through in the comics, where he wants to revive Zane, and we kind of see those parallels in the story. Now, the artwork is done by Kath Lobo and Anna Kevoski Chandra. I do apologize if I butchered some names there, but the artwork for this issue is great because it's got this anime style and the colors really pop out and are very bright for a very dark story, but somehow the art style makes it work with how it tells the story narratively with everything going on around it. So the artwork for this issue is pretty great because whenever we've got this anime style going on in a Power Rangers comic, I'm always fascinated with it. I always fixate towards it, and I just love it. And in this circumstance, I think the artwork looks really good, really great. Now, what's interesting about this book as well is the narrative and how the story is told, because it opens up with Zane and Andros being read a bedtime story by Marvy about the adventures of the Omega Rangers and how the Gold Ranger conquered death. And we saw a little bit of this in Countdown to Ruin, but in this issue, it's kind of that full story they were being read as a bedtime story. So the whole premise of this issue is read by Marvy, and it's told as a bedtime story. So it's kind of a tragic tale told to the kids as they go to bed. But what's interesting is how Andros and Zane walk away from this story is they kind of view Spiark as a hero, as someone who could have done it. And you kind of see Marvy in shock with them sort of learning that lesson, thinking that Spiark was a hero and that they could have done it. I'm stuttering all over the place. But it has Andros and Zane sort of walking away thinking that Spiark was just getting started and they could have succeeded. And then Zane says maybe they could have conquered death if they only had a little bit more time. So Zane and Andros, they view Spiark as the hero in this story, and the issue ends with Andros sitting beside Zane in the frozen tube. So that was kind of Zane's whole motive to sort of seek out the Gold Omega Ranger and revive Zane, which there is a bit in this issue where they sort of make a comment about saying, hey, imagine being able to revive the dead and imagine being raised from the dead. How cool would that be? Which is kind of foreshadowing with what's going on in the comics right now. So I kind of like that bit of dialogue. So before we talk about Spiark, the Gold Omega Ranger, I want to talk about the other Omega Rangers because we don't spend a lot of time with them. We learn their names and kind of what their personalities are about, but their designs are really interesting. And I got to go over the original Omega Rangers because people are going to ask me in the comments, what were the original Omega Rangers' names? And I'll talk about that now. So let's start with the original Red Omega Ranger, Bledsoe. Bledsoe has got that cool, edgy OC design. He's got the jacket, he's got the white hair with kind of the long bangs going down, the blue skin that kind of reminded me of Lothar from Voltron, and did I mention the red jacket? They've got the red jacket and the scars across their face where they're just screaming, this guy looks cool. And then we've got the Omega Black Ranger, which is this big red hulking beast person. Their name is called, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Apophi. That's, I think, how you pronounce it. But they've got this big hulking design, so I do like how everyone's designs is very different and very contrast to Jason, Trini, and Zach, and Yale, and Kia. Well, Kia was the alien of the group, but this is a whole team of aliens. So then we've got the Yellow Ranger, which is, I believe their name is V Purim, or just Purim, because the only one that speaks to this character is 11. And 11 does that fancy thing where calls him by a title by calling him V Purim. So I don't know if that's their full name or just how Yale was speaking to him, but they're this blonde-haired character with 3 eyes, and I gotta say, their design is really cute. I think this character is kind of a cutie, I will say that. It's got some waifu design going for him. Speaking of waifu material, we've got Haza, Spiark's driving force to become the Death Ranger in this comic, and Haza's design, she is just this blue alien waifu with purple hair in kind of a sexy getup, if you know what I mean. And their design is really interesting as well, because like I said, the art style with the anime vibes we get for these characters suits it well. I mean, it suits it well for the story it's telling. And although Haza doesn't stick around for very long, although they could return in issue 100, maybe, she's got a really cool design, I will say that. Like, it's that cute girl waifu. You can understand that their cute design is meant to be the love interest for Spiark. But I honestly wish we kind of got to spend a little bit more time with the original Omega Rangers. I know it's not their story, this is Spiark's story with how they became the Death Ranger, but it does what it needs to do when it sets up Haza. Haza's the love interest, dies right away earlier on in the comic, but I kind of wish we got to spend more time with these characters. But like I said, it's not their story, but their designs do look really cool. Okay, let's talk about Spiark's character design before I talk about the whole motives and motivation throughout this issue. Because Spiark's design, I was not expecting they would be the Death Ranger. Well, I kind of knew when I saw the images floating around online, but when I think Death Ranger, I'm thinking of a character that's like buff and tall and brooding. They've got the slinted eyes with like that Vegeta look on them where they're always pissed off, and they've got spiky hair or a mohawk, or they're built really big. This character is like built small and timid and very kind looking, and then you just see their descent into madness when they lose someone very close to them. And Spiark's motive to revive Haza gave me some Full Metal Alchemist vibes, where Spiark just locks themselves in their room just trying to find some way to revive someone very close to them. And we kind of sort of get a glimpse and learn about Spiark's alien race, where they're from an alien race where their people don't really die. What happens to them is they sort of live in the subconscious of everyone else's mind. So in your mind is the deceased living in there, sort of being your conscious. And that's kind of a really weird and interesting concept. And when Haza dies, Spiark's unable to process it because it doesn't happen to Haza. Haza's not living in Spiark's mind. They're dead in the ground. So that becomes their motivation to revive Haza from the dead and become the Death Ranger. So you see their descent into madness, and when it happens, you sort of see them flick like that. But we kind of get an explanation of how the Death Ranger's powers work, and Spiark says, all living things are powered by the Morphin Grid, and now I've made the Morphin Grid power the dead. So it's an interesting concept of how these powers work, and all these dead things rising from the ground. But of course, Spiark is unable to control these powers, and the person they bring back to life ends up killing them, and they die in each other's arms. But what happens to them is they kind of don't die, they sort of go in to the Gold Ranger Morpher, and that's kind of how we find out how Spiark is inside the Gold Ranger Morpher. So we kind of get that explanation. And with the death of these two characters, we do learn that the blue Omega Ranger was replaced after this tragedy, but they never replaced the Gold Ranger, and that's why we see the Gold Ranger Morpher locked in the Safehaven vault. But also, because of this tragedy and because of this loss, 11 couldn't handle the weight of the Ranger's failure, So what they did was shut themselves off because their fear and their lack of confidence would hurt the Rangers. So 11 shut themselves off for the greater good, which is kind of sad, but it also explains everything going on with 11 right now in the Ryan Parrott run. And I don't know if that actually reflects what happened to 11 in the Ryan Parrott run with everything going on, but it's kind of sad that the dude just shut himself off because he felt so guilty and felt like if he didn't have faith in the Rangers, then they wouldn't do well. So they did what they thought was best. But like I mentioned earlier, we don't see who the Blue Omega Ranger replacement was, and they never replaced Spiark because they thought if Spiark ever gets loose, then the whole universe is in danger, which is something we're seeing in the Power Ranger comics at the moment. But we don't find out what happened to the original Omega Rangers, and I do wonder if we'll find out what happened to them in issue 100, what happened to them later down the line, or did they just grow old and die in the heat of battle? That's something I would like to find out later down the line. So yeah, that was Power Rangers Unlimited the Death Ranger. Kind of a different way how I did the review this time, so I hope you guys liked it. It wasn't the recap and play-by-play I usually do with my comic reviews. I feel like this one I had to jump all over the place and sort of talk about the characters and where they end up, because we kind of knew where this story was going in the end. But the best way to describe the Death Ranger comic is this is a story of tragedy, love, meets Full Metal Alchemist, because I got those Full Metal Alchemist vibes when Spiark was trying to find a way to revive Haza. But either way, this was a really good one-shot, and I enjoyed it. I think this might be my second favorites out of the others. I enjoyed the Phantom Ranger one a lot with the lore it set up, and the Astrometer one was pretty cool. I need to go back and reread it, but this one might be my second favorite one out of the Power Rangers Unlimited books released so far. But what did you guys think of it? Tell me in the comment section down below. I love to hear your thoughts and opinions. With that said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you guys later. Peace out, take care, bye.